I decided to do my infograph on the hardships of the LGBT community. The LGBT community faces many hardships, physical and mental, from homelessness to mental illness. Warning, there's some explicit content ahead. LGBTQ teens make up 40% of the youth homeless population due to negative reactions from family, so either they were kicked out or they left on their own accord. In 2010, over 1,400 cases of hate crimes were towards the LGBT community, although official sources admit of lacking evidence for more case numbers. Usually, those hate crimes, over 50% of the time, ended in violence towards the community. So it ended in assault, sexual assault, or murder. An estimated 25% of the LGBTQ population have been victims of hate crimes. And usually transgendered victims have higher numbers. So a survey went around and 15% were victims to sexual assault, 50 were victims to physical assault, and 80% were victims to verbal assault. I'm going to use some terms in the next few slides. SSIPV, which stands for same-sex intimate partner violence, and OPSIPV, which stands for opposite-sex intimate partner violence. The LGBT community, like many other communities, suffers from domestic violence. Lesbian and bisexual women are more likely to face IPV than straight women, and gay men and straight men have similar rates of IPV, but bisexual men have a higher risk of IPV. The most common forms of SSIPV are psychological, so verbal abuse and controlling behavior, physical SSIPV, and sexual SSIPV. Psychological IPV, between 20 and 83% of LGBT people experience psychological abuse in their lifetime. Physical SSIPV, 1/3 of the community faces this in their lifetime. And sexual IPV, about 5% experience this in their lifetime, although rates are higher for women. LGBTQ teens also suffer from bullying. So for verbal harassment, 74.1% were bullied because of their sexuality, and 55.2% were bullied because of their gender identity. There was also physical threats. 22.7% of teens were threatened because of their gender identity, and 36.2% were threatened because of their sexuality. And 49% of the LGBTQ kids were reported to have been cyberbullied. There's also physical assault. 16.5% of LGBTQ kids were assaulted because of their sexuality, and 11.4% were assaulted because of their gender identity. The school isn't effective either. 60% of kids who identified as LGBTQ said that when they reported bullying, the school did nothing. Mental health also is a hardship of the LGBTQ community. People who identify as LGBTQ are twice as likely to have a mental health disorder than heterosexual individuals, and lesbian and bisexual women are twice as likely to engage in heavy drinking than heterosexual women. Teens of the LGBT community are also 6 times more likely to experience symptoms of depression. Hardships that affect the community affect the people. Hate crimes, unsupportive family all lead to higher rate of depression of people in the community. And coming out itself has its fears. People fear discrimination. It can lead to PTSD, anxiety, substance abuse, and suicidal thoughts. There's a hotline there if you need it. Between the year 2013 and 2015, LGBTQ teens made up of 24% of all teen suicides. There's also a discrepancy in the suicides. Gay and lesbian youths are 3.5 times more likely to attempt suicide than heterosexual kids. Transgendered teens are 6 times more likely to commit suicide or attempt suicide. And bisexual youth are also 3.5 times more likely to attempt suicide. 40% of high schoolers who identify as LGBTQ also seriously contemplate suicide. Transgender people from minority families also have a higher risk of committing suicide, more than Caucasian transgendered people. Transgendered individuals are also high risk of suicide than other groups of the LGBTQ. 65% of transgender people have suicidal thoughts. And out of the 15 states of high suicide in the United States, 5% of the states have large LGBTQ population.